everybody, what's up and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Liz, and today we're going to be discussing a case that if you're from New England, you know very well. We are going to be talking about the death of Martha Moxley. Now, if you're new here, hey, I'm Liz. I talk about true crime, and this month of Spooktober, I am re-adding in my art. Now, if that piqued your interest, I highly suggest you subscribe, turn your post notifications on to all, that way you know whenever I upload. And don't forget to like this video and comment down below. I want to get to know my subscribers. I really am happy and I'm loving where my channel is going, so let's keep on keeping on and let's get into today's true crime case. On Halloween Eve of 1975, 15-year-old Martha Elizabeth Moxley was participating in Mischief Night, which apparently is also called Doorbell Night, with her friends, and they would go around ringing doorbells, toilet papering houses, and other assorted pranks. Martha was last seen with Thomas Skakel at his house right across the street from her home in Belle Haven, Greenwich, Connecticut. According to some eyewitnesses, she was last seen flirting with Thomas, kissing him, and eventually falling behind a fence with him by the pool in the Skakel backyard. This was at about 9:30 p.m. This was the last time passerby eyewitnesses saw her alive. Early on the afternoon of Halloween, the body of Martha Moxley was found in her own backyard. Her remains were underneath a tree. Now, according to police, Martha was bludgeoned to death. She was found with her jeans down and her underwear pulled down, but there was no sign of sexual assault. Police would next try to determine what the murder weapon was, but they didn't have to look very far. Parts of a golf club was found near her body, but the head of this golf club was found approximately 50 feet from where they believe the start of this attack happened on Martha. They believe the start of this attack started in the Moxley family's driveway. It also is believed that after the club broke, it was then used to stab her. This would be later corroborated in her autopsy. So when in fact in autopsy it was determined that she was bludgeoned to death and stabbed with the golf club. Something else about her body was unusual. There was no defensive wounds. This meant she knew who attacked her. There was nothing really odd about her body. There was nothing, it was odd, but it wasn't, outlandish. Other than her pants being pulled down and not being sexually assaulted, it was just like a slam dunk. They knew what happened to her, but they just didn't know who. But there was also a blood smear on her body. Now, this blood smear, in fact, they believe that this showed that her attacker tried to use some force against her. This suggestion is that there was a sexually motivated part of this homicide, but yet she wasn't sexually assaulted, so that's really it's kind of like a far-fetched theory, but it's not at the same time. Police were also able to determine that she died sometime between 9:45 and 10 p.m. Now, you remember the golf club? Well, this golf club was in fact a 6-iron golf club that was a part of a set belonging to none other than the Skakel family. Oh yes. Now, trash from the Skakel family home was examined as well, and there was recently thrown out clothing that was found in the trash. But that's not all. There was also hair found on this evidence as well. So after police came to know the origin of this golf club, they then put together the timeline and they start interviewing witnesses and what happened during Doorbell Night or Mischief Night. They find out that Thomas Skakel was the last person seen with her the night of the murder. So this then makes him the prime suspect of her murder. When police interview him, now mind you, he's 17, they also interview his brother Michael, who's 15 at the time. They both admitted to being with her that night, which, it was a whole bunch of teenagers causing mischief, so that doesn't really, throw any alarm bells. But in Michael's testimony, he said that around 9:30, he went with his older brothers, Russ Jr. and John, so they could give their cousin a ride home. When they asked Thomas what he was doing, he then said at around 9:30, he was inside the family home and he was doing his report on Abraham Lincoln. So if Michael said he was in a vehicle and Thomas said he was doing schoolwork, what exactly happened to Martha on her very short walk home? Because, they live right across the street from one another. Police also then talked to 24-year-old Kenneth Littleton, who had just recently been hired to be a live-in tutor for the Skakel family. Kenneth said he heard noises outside between 9:30 and 10. He also informed the police that he checked on all 7 of the Skakel children, but all of the older boys weren't home. He then said that he did this before he went outside to see what the noises were, but when he couldn't find the source of the noise, which he thought was the rustling of bushes near the home, he couldn't find anything, so he went back inside. He then also said that Thomas joined him to watch TV at around 10:25. And that the other boys returned before 11 p.m., so within the next half an hour. Over the next several months, Thomas was given 2 polygraph tests. One was inconclusive, and the second one he passed. Kenneth Littleton was given a polygraph test, and he failed horribly. The police try to focus on Kenneth as the prime suspect, but there is no evidence to conclude he murdered Martha or to charge him with anything. The case went cold and it became inactive. That is until 16 years later. 16 years after the murder, William Kennedy Smith is on trial for rape, and the murder of Martha Moxley then comes to light. Apparently there was a rumor that William Kennedy Smith was there at the Skakel residence that night of the murder and that he possibly was involved with her death. The source of this rumor became a farce, and it prompted a new investigation into the death of Martha Moxley. So during the initial investigation and over the years, Michael and Thomas actually changed their alibis a lot. Michael changed his alibi to him actually peeping in windows of the Moxley house and masturbating in a tree beside the Moxley house between the hours of 11:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. It also came out that 2 fellow classmates of his at the Elon School in Poland, Maine, said that Michael bragged about killing Martha and how he would get away with it because he was a Kennedy. Now, if you didn't know, Michael Skakel is the nephew of Ethel Skakel Kennedy, who is the widow of the deceased Senator Robert F. Kennedy. That is how he is related into the Kennedy family. So, with all of this evidence that had been evaluated, in June of 1998, a one-man grand jury came together to review this evidence. And it was determined after an 18-month investigation that there was enough evidence to charge Michael Skakel with the murder of Martha Moxley. So on January 9th of 2000, an arrest warrant was issued. Now this arrest warrant was unnamed in the connection to the murder of Martha Moxley, and subsequently Michael turned himself in that same day. He then would be released on a $500,000 bail shortly after his surrender to police. So he wasn't in jail for very long. His arraignment was on March 14th of 2000 in juvenile court, but it was decided on January 31st of 2001 that he would be tried as an adult. Now, because of when this crime happened in 1975 and when he's being charged, you have to follow the same rules of the law from that time. Because he was 15, technically he should have been tried as a juvenile once he was arrested. But in the eyes of the law, because of the severity of the crime, they then had to charge him as an adult. His trial would not begin until May 7th of 2002 in Norwalk, Connecticut. His alibi his defense lawyer, Michael Sherman, tried to use was that he was at his cousin's house that night, specifically during the time of the murder. He also then presented was a taped recording of a book deal, of which contained Michael Skakel speaking of him masturbating in a tree the night of the murder, and that this tree in particular possibly could be the same tree that Martha was found underneath. No, I am not kidding at all. Also on this tape, Michael stated that he was afraid that he might have been seen the night of the murder while he was jerking off and he panicked. So parts of this tape in images of Martha were put together by prosecution and shown during their closing arguments, and that is what won the jury over. On June 7th of 2002, he was found guilty and sentenced to 20 years in prison. He was sent to the Garn Correctional Institution in Newtown, Connecticut. Well, in November of 2003, he starts appealing his conviction. He doesn't think it's right. He was granted a new trial, finally, on October 23rd of 2013. And on November 21st, 2013, he was released on a $1.2 million bond, awaiting his new trial. He seems so lucky, right? Because, he's got a fancy family and everything. In 2016, it was ruled that his conviction was reinstated due to overwhelming evidence against him. So, in January 2018, his bail was then revoked, and he was returned to prison, but not for long. Oh, not for long, my friends. The Connecticut Supreme Court vacated his sentence on May 4th and ordered a new trial. But as of October 30th, 2020, he will not be retried, and this case is still unsolved. What are your thoughts? Leave them in the comments down below. I would love to know. If you are a New England resident and know of this case, put your thoughts in the comments down below. I still don't know exactly. There's still something fishy with Michael. There's different ways that he's been portrayed in the different movies about him, like Murder in Greenwich. I watched that movie repeatedly when I was younger. I don't know why, but I really loved that movie, and I loved the way that they portrayed this crime because I remember seeing this on the news, and I remember watching part of the court, what they would show. I remember watching part of it on the news with my mom when I was younger. So this case kind of really hits home for me because I've lived in New England all my life, and I grew up knowing about the Kennedy family, as most people know, but knowing that they're so close to where I'm from, and that this person that is a part of the Kennedy family possibly could have gotten away with murder and still has gotten away with murder. I don't know. It just, something about it still hits home for me. So what are your thoughts? Leave them in the comments down below. I would love to know, and I will see you guys in another video. Bye, you guys.